Hello, everyone. My name is Cassidy, and my partner Julie and I will be talking to you today about Morocco. So first, we're going to talk about where Morocco is and the population. And you can see on this map here that Morocco is located in Africa on the northwestern coast. It has a population of 37,031,035 people. And this number is as of October 11th. And actually, the population is increased by over 120,000, to be exact, 120,475, from the middle of 2020 to October 11th. And the population actually only makes up about 0.47% of the world's population. So it's not a very large country population-wise, and the US population actually is about 9 times as much. So the total land area is about 172,317 square miles. And to give you sort of a reference to see how big Morocco is, it is just about over half the size of the state of Texas. And the capital of Morocco is Rabat. And this is along the northwestern coast, again, as you can see in the map to the right. But the largest city is actually Casablanca. And this city is Morocco's chief port and also one of the largest financial centers in Africa. Morocco is bordered by Algeria, the Western Sahara, and two enclaves of Spain. Looking at Morocco, if you're looking at it topographically, you can see that the geography varies greatly. Along the northern coast and the interior areas, it is very mountainous. The Atlas Mountains actually run through Morocco. There are a series of mountain ranges in Northwest Africa. But in Morocco specifically, there are over 400 summits, so 400 high peaks in Morocco. And the highest point is Toubkal. In the top right corner, you will see a mountain range, and this is Toubkal. It rises up to 13,665 feet. And so along near the rest of the coast, Morocco consists of plains. Most of the agriculture takes place here. Pictured here is not along the coast, it's a little bit more inland, but on the coast there is a lot more agriculture as well. So much like the geography of Morocco, the climate also varies by location. So the farther inland that you go, the hotter it's going to get. And this is due primarily because as you go further inland, uh, you are getting closer to the Sahara Desert. So the temperatures increase. And the coast of Morocco is Mediterranean. So it has dry, warm summers and mild winters. If you remember from a couple slides ago, Rabat is located on the northern coast, and its normal winter temperatures are about 46 degrees Fahrenheit, and the midsummer temperatures are about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, in contrast to an area like Marrakesh, which is more inland, the average winter temperatures are 43 degrees, and the midsummer temperature average is 98 degrees. So you're seeing more of those extreme temperatures there, and again, because you're getting closer to the Sahara Desert. The rainfall is relatively low in Morocco. However, floods are common during the rainy season in Morocco. But as you go further south, the rain levels are lower and they gradually decrease. So when you reach about 6,500 feet above sea level, that's when you actually start to see the snow. And as you can see in this picture, generally speaking, these areas are in the mountains. So those high peaks, those high summits are where you're going to see snow.
Just by taking a look at Morocco's history, it's easy to see how all of their languages were influenced by other countries. In the early days of Morocco, people either spoke the Berber languages, which were the original languages of Morocco before Arabic was introduced. There are three subcategories of that as well, or they would speak Arabic. Because it's close to France, it was occupied in 1912. So French was introduced to Morocco during this time, and their culture was kind of integrated within Morocco. Spain had occupied different areas of Morocco over the course of their history as well. So that's where Spanish was introduced from. And then English was introduced through a random series of things that had happened. A lot of different English diplomats, spies, writers, and businessmen came to Morocco, and especially during the Second World War, when there were American soldiers, English was highly used over there. French is not considered to be a main language, it is just an unofficial language, but it's one of the most popular and highly used languages over there. The flag of Morocco started out as just a solid red flag, but when Moulay Youssef came to reign in 1915, he introduced Solomon's seal, which is the 5-point star that you see on the red flag. It was indicative of the 5 pillars of Islam. During the French and Spanish rule of Morocco, this flag was actually banned and they weren't allowed to use it or fly it anywhere. But when they gained their independence in 1956, they resumed using the flag that you see today in Morocco. The color of the flag, the red is commonly associated with the Arab states of the Persian Gulf, while red and green are usually used in the Arab flags, and both colors are seen in the flag of both Algeria and Western Sahara, which are neighboring countries. But they combined these colors and came up with this. Under French rule in 1953, France exiled Sultan Mohammed V to Madagascar. This enraged a lot of the Moroccan people as they looked to the Sultan as a political and religious leader. So 2 years later, after a lot of tension and rising violence in Morocco, France decided to bring back the Sultan to Morocco. During this time, Mohammed V negotiated independence from France as well as from Spain for the Moroccan people. After the death of Mohammed V, his son Hassan II took over in 1961. He abolished the first constitution and created a whole new one and assumed all the powers as prime minister and as king. His cabinet and his government was known for its corruption and political tension that it caused. He was known for imprisoning people for not agreeing with his political stances, and there was a lot of human rights violations that took place during his reign as well. In 1999, after Hassan II's death, his son Mohammed VI took over reigning the country of Morocco. He ensured a free and fair election to his people and really ensured transparency as he knew the bad reputation his father had created between the government and the people. So he really wanted to pay for some of those things that his father had done. He started enforcing capitalism and really emphasizing the private sector of their country, which increased their GDP by 61% and reduced their poverty levels by 50%. Morocco is also known for their strong ties to the West and their strong stance on countering Islamist extremism. Islam constitutes over 99% of the religion in Morocco, with only less than 1% being made up of Christians, Jews, and Baha'i. Baha'i is basically like your coexist type of religion. It's a mixture of everything all in one. Food is a very, very important part of Moroccan culture. To them, food is not just something that you put in your body to get you through the day, but instead something that's beautiful, almost artistic, and brings people together. Moroccans are known for cooking all of their meals in the same pot. They don't separate the vegetables, starches, and meats when cooking because when they're all put together, it ensures that the most flavor can be extracted from them. They call this layered flavoring. There are 10 spices that are very important to the cuisine in Morocco. These 10 spices are cinnamon, cumin, saffron, turmeric, ground ginger, black and white pepper, hot red peppers, sweet paprika, aniseed, and sesame seed. The importance of spices in these meals was due to Morocco's location right in the path of the ancient spice routes. So they term themselves as being very spice centric when it comes to their food. The general rule is that you buy whole spices and then you would grind them yourself for the utmost flavor. Moroccan families enjoy 5 whole meals a day. This includes breakfast, second breakfast, lunch around midday, afternoon snack, and then dinner later on in the evening. This tradition is universal across the country. They don't use plates, they use one main pot, which is called a tagine, which we'll talk about in a second. They enjoy all sharing out of the same bowl, and it's seen as a communal occasion. There are 3 staple food items that are present in every Moroccan meal. The first one would be bread. Their bread is circular, flat bread, made with whatever grains are grown locally. The second would be their tea. It's a green tea with tons of sugar and mint added, and it turns it into a syrupy, super sweet liquid. The last thing would be tagine. This is a dish, but it's also named after the conical shaped clay pot that it's made in, as you can see in the photo. It's basically stew with meat and lots of vegetables, and it kind of works like a crock pot. It doesn't require any type of stirring. You just put the food in there and allow it to stew. When dining in Moroccan culture, it is very important to remember a few different pointers. The first is to always eat with your right hand. You hold the food between your thumb and your 2 first fingers. If you use your whole hand, it is considered a symbol of gluttony, so you want to avoid doing that at all costs. You only use your left hand for grabbing bread or passing a dish.
So, spices are extensively used in Moroccan food. Some of these spices include cinnamon, cumin, turmeric, ginger, paprika, fennel, nutmeg, pepper, and sesame seeds. There's actually a Moroccan spice mixture called Ras El Hanout that blends 27 spices. And then there's also herbs like parsley, mint, oregano, coriander, and sage that are also commonly used. The baseline of a meal is typically a common meat like beef, goat, lamb, chicken, or seafood, along with some of their staple ingredients like wheat, which is primarily used to make bread and couscous, and then olive oil and grapes. Some of the other characteristic flavors of this country are lemon pickle, argan oil, olive oil, and dried fruits. So the dish that I chose to cook is a very popular dish in Morocco. It's called harira, and this recipe is typically passed down from generation to generation. It's made from a variety of legumes like lentils, fava beans, chickpeas, tomato sauce, harissa paste, and some fresh herbs like parsley and cilantro. But in every region in Morocco, it has its own version. So many families, when they pass it from generation to generation, they can modify it or just have one specific to that family or that area. So harira can be either vegetarian or stuffed with bits of lamb, chicken, beef, or fish meat. In some cases, beaten eggs or flour and a water mixture are whisked into the soup near the end of the cooking, and this gives it a slightly different texture and thickens it. In this case, I actually used flour as a thickener. And this dish is eaten year-round, but during Ramadan, Moroccans eat their first meal of the day, and they eat the harira soup, usually along with dates, figs, coffee, or milk, and also some fried honey cooked cookies. They're shaped like flowers, and they're sprinkled with sesame. So in order to make this, I first browned the meat and I made this stock by adding the pureed tomatoes, some spices and herbs and water. There was also some oil that I used to brown the meat. And after that, I had added in the lentils, the tomato paste, and some water to make the soup. There was actually like on the surface, there was oil, and that was from the fat. If not all the fat came off, so you'd always have to scrape that off as well. Just a tip if you're ever going to make this. And so while the soup was simmering, I made the thickener with the flour and water. And then to finish off the soup, I added the thickener, and then I let it simmer a little bit longer to get the flour taste out of there, and then it was ready to eat. So this was a very long process to make. It took me almost 3 hours, I believe, to prep all the ingredients and cook it and get it that right consistency, but it was definitely worth it, and I definitely recommend if you have some spare time to try making this. It had a very savory and zesty taste. It had a thick consistency. I might add a little less flour the next time I do it, but I would definitely recommend trying this dish. There's a lot of different spices and herbs in there that gives it a very distinct flavor and really follows along with the spices and herbs that are used in Moroccan dishes.
Cassidy and I thoroughly enjoyed learning more about the beautiful country of Morocco. There was so much more to this country than we knew going into it, so it was really neat to be able to learn more and have a better knowledge of what happens and the kind of food and culture that takes place over there. We wanted to leave you guys with two questions. The first one is, what were your views on Moroccan food before this presentation? Have they changed, and if so, how? The second one is to challenge you to look up a few cities in Morocco. Which one would you visit and why? We also have this video over here to the left with 10 fun facts about Morocco that you may not have known. So that's a cool video you can check out as well. Thanks so much for listening.